Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my Philadelphia Phillies franchise, and today we have a lot of things to go over as we've hit the All-Star break. So as you can see, we are at the injury screen, and basically every bench player that we have on our team is out, and they're out for pretty much the entire season. So Neil Walker down with a torn MCL. He is down for 6 months, 6+ months, and Forsythe is also out for 6+ months. I mean, both of these guys are veterans, and honestly, this could be the end of both of their careers right here, as they're out indefinitely with both with very serious injuries. And then Roman Quinn is also out for 1 to 2 months as well. And I see Logan Forsythe's numbers this year. He actually started out really good for us. Of course, that high OBP is kind of characterized him as a player throughout most of his career, but he has not really done much more than that. But of course, I mean, he has pretty much a long 10-year career, pretty much. Same with Neil Walker, who also started pretty well. Not nearly as many bats as Forsythe, but again, not good at the plate this year for us. Worse than Forsythe. But of course, now these guys will no longer be in the lineup. And Roman Quinn has actually had a pretty good season for us. I'm pretty impressed with his performance this year. This is pretty much the best year he's ever had in the major leagues. His 2018 was good as well, but this season he's hitting for more power. Has a higher OPS, but yeah, I mean, honestly, can't really complain with his production. He's been much better than Adam Hazley this year, which of course we'll get into the stats of kind of everyone later in this video. But yeah, I mean, he's been pretty impressive so far through this, and yes, I mean, all of these guys are pretty much done for the rest of the year. I mean, Roman Quinn could maybe come back if he is back before the end of the season. I'm sure he would kind of resume just as a left-handed platoon. And now just taking a look at the guys that we called up to replace the injured players. We called up Josh Harrison, and the first guy, who has been pretty good for us, limited at bats of course, and Ronnie Therese, who, I mean, has also had very limited at bats. I mean, you can't really see or tell or read anything into their performances really so far. And Mikie Mahtook is the other guy we called up to replace Quinn in the outfield, and again, he is also taking his spot as the center field starter against left-handed pitching, as I'm not really comfortable having Hazley hit against and start against both right and left-handed pitchers. And okay, so now getting into these stats and how our guys have been performing this year up until the part of the All-Star break, sorting by player performance here. And Andrew McCutchen has been by far our best hitter this season. OPS of almost 1,000. Yeah, no, I mean, he's just been by far the best hitter we've had so far this season. He has been down a lot as of late. He only hit like about 230, 240 something in the past month, so it did bring his numbers down a lot. But I mean, for McCutchen, this type of season is way above my expectations from him. So very pleased with that. Didi Gregorius, another guy, he's been very good for us this year. Great bounce back season after he missed a lot of last season with Tommy John. So very pleased with the numbers he's been putting up for us. I mean, he's a great infield bat to have. 328 OBP and good power numbers as well, slugging well over 500. And then with these type of numbers, he's definitely going to be moved at the trade deadline. Andrew Knapp, very good in the backup catcher role for us. Of course, very limited at bats because we do have the best catcher in baseball, JT Realmuto, but very good in the at bats he's had. By far his best season in the major leagues, even with limited at bats. Bryce Harper, off to a very bad start so far this season. Of course, he was hitting about 150 through the first month. He has got very hot after that and then bounced all the way up to around 240 average, but of course that does not really mean anything. His slugging and on base were higher, but dropping a little bit here, but a disappointing season from him so far. But of course, he usually is a second half kind of hitter, so those numbers definitely could go up for him. Again, I mean, he just had such a rough start to the season that pretty much anything he does after that is just gonna, of course, is gonna help his numbers, but his numbers in general will be tough to bounce back from. JD Realmuto, I'm pretty pleased with his performance. Not as good as he was last year at the plate, but still OPS high 700s. I mean, for a catcher, he's a fantastic bat. And of course, the value he provides in the field, although unfortunately, the show doesn't really correctly measure catcher fielding. Gene Segura, another guy who I'm pleased with his performance with. I mean, this is the kind of guy Segura is now. I mean, kind of a 280s, 290 hitter. I mean, he really relies on his ability to put a bat on the ball to produce offensively, because he does not have a good on-base skill. Again, Josh Harrison, limited ABs, and not too much to say there. He has not been good. Rhys Hoskins, though, has not been good at all. Of course, in real life, there's kind of much to do about his kind of downtick that he had last year in his performance, and how he was not good. And this year, he's even worse, and I mean way worse. OPS in the mid 700s, only 330 OBP, barely slugging over 400. I mean, for the sake of our franchise, really need to hope he's able to turn things around. Kingery, pretty pleased with how he's been so far this season. Again, mid 700s OPS. I mean, with us being like a championship caliber team down the road, I don't really know if I see him being a starter with those teams. But I mean, he still could be a very useful utility guy who kind of plays every day at a different spot. I mean, he is very good in the field, very, very good in the field, and is very useful in kind of that way. But definitely could be a low-level starter, most likely on a championship sort of team. But pleased with his performance. Not as good as last year, but still very good. Again, Quinn, Tereus, just kind of going through the guys here who are either the bench guys who were hurt, or the bench guys who were called up and don't have many at-bats under their belt. And again, here Forsythe and Walker. Now Hazley has been absolutely terrible for us at center field this year. I mean, with the bat, slugging under 300. I mean, he's not getting on base. He's not really making contact with the ball at all. I mean, OPS under 600. I mean, he has been terrible for us, which really sucks, because I mean, we don't really have many other options to call up, and that could provide good performances for us in the outfield, or at least anything probably close to what we would want. I mean, so he's kind of just locked in and has to just kind of ride out the entire rest of the season in center field. I mean, he's a great defender, and if his bat doesn't develop, I mean, I still could see him definitely being like a fourth outfielder kind of guy, since he has good defensive ratings on our team, or on a very good team. But really need his bat to develop. Now Jay Bruce has been absolutely terrible for us so far this year. I mean, it's getting to the point where I'm probably honestly just going to DFA him, because he's been absolutely terrible. And of course, in real life, the Phillies are only responsible for about $3 million, or like $1.3 million of his contract. But in this, of course, MLB The Show doesn't know that, because they never fix anything. So it says we are responsible for his full contract, which kind of sucks. But we're just going to have to eat all the money anyway, because no one would want a guy who cannot hit. So he is not a movable piece, because he has no value, because no one would want someone that can't pretty much do anything, because he can't hit in this game, which is really all he's valuable for. And he can't field or do anything like that. Okay, so now moving right along to the pitching side of things, seeing how all these guys have been for us this year. Zach Evelyn, I believe he's improved from where we checked him at the last video, but I mean, he's still going to lose his starting spot in the rotation to Spencer Howard at some point this year when he comes up, which I haven't decided whether that'll be before or after the trade deadline, but it will be very soon, and he'll lose his job. I mean, he has been very good. He might stay in the bullpen, because as you can see below him, Pivetta has been kind of equally as bad. I'm not sure which one of those guys will stick around and be the long guy. It is worth mentioning that Arano and Velasquez have both been good. Very good, actually, in the bullpen in the minors so far. So one of those guys could also pop up and get that opportunity as well. But I'm honestly not sure what I'm going to do there. So I'll honestly kind of play out, see if anybody or any of those guys get hurt, maybe Spencer Howard getting hurt or something. I mean, basically an injury would decide what we do there. Nola has not been good of late. He was pretty good, at least around what I pretty much expected with him, with like a mid-3 FIP or something earlier in the year, but now he's gone cold and his FIP has kind of skyrocketed. His ERA is still pretty decent, but of course he's not much, or he's not like a defined like strikeout guy. He relies on the ground ball to induce weak contact and stuff like that. But I'm sure he'll bounce back, and not too concerned about that. I think this is just a rough patch with him this season. Hector Narus has been pretty decent for us this year. I actually thought about maybe moving him at the trade deadline, but I plan on, of course, us being competitive in the next few years, and definitely want to kind of go for it as a kind of echoing what they're trying to do in real life. And I think, of course, that we need him next year, so I don't want to get rid of him yet. Drew Storen, numbers kind of deceiving. His basic numbers like ZRA, WHIP, very good in his time, but he's a lot of home runs, so that FIP is a lot higher than his numbers would suggest, so he's not been nearly as good as his numbers would suggest. Ranger Schwartz has been pretty good for us. It seems like he's primed to be a back of the rotation guy for us as the series moves along. I mean, he's been good. He's not going to lose his spot when Howard comes up. I mean, he's going to be one of our starters for the rest of the year. I'm pretty pleased with how he has been developing so far through the series. Edgar Garcia is a guy who's been pretty good for us, a young righty reliever. Mid-4 FIP, ERA again. This is a guy where the ERA is a lot lower, and it does not tell the entire story. Home runs from him a bit up, but I mean, he's a solid young righty reliever that I'm pleased to have, and he is going to be in our future plans for sure. Alvarez, he's been pretty good for us, not allowing really any home runs, but having a bit of a walk problem. That's why his FIP's high. Jake Arrieta, very pleased with his performance, honestly. I mean, I kind of just expect the wheels to fall off and him to be absolutely terrible this year, but he's been good. I mean, not really allowing any home runs. Of course, he's a kind of ground ball guy at this point. I mean, that low 4 FIP is absolutely fine with me. I mean, either way, going to the series, I knew that he would not be movable at all. I mean, that contract is so big, it just would not be realistic at all for any team to want him. And even if he did perform really well, I mean, that contract is just too much. So, I mean, we're just going to ride it out with him the rest of the season. He's just going to kind of go along. I mean, I really don't see us bringing him back. Maybe we could bring him back in like a depth role where he'd be in the minors and only up if we really needed somebody. But I mean, he basically has no future with this team. Robert Stock, I mean, he's been good. Not really allowing any home runs. FIP actually better than the ERA, so this is kind of a case in the opposite direction as we've seen mostly with this team. Zach Wheeler, he's been good. Again, on a cold streak, he had been really good for us with a kind of low FIP, a low 3 FIP, but this is fine too. Pretty pleased with that. Adam Morgan has been the best reliever on our team this year by far, just shutting down every lefty and righty now since the 3 batter minimum has been implemented, but low 3 FIP, I mean, even lower ERA. Not really walking many guys has been good. And then Anthony Dominguez, of course, who just came up for us. I mean, he's by far the most talented reliever on our team. We're going to be an important part of our bullpen for years to come. But of course, not many innings from him, but of course he's been solid in those innings. Now, just showing you guys 2 guys who are going to be making an impact on the big league roster soon, Spencer Howard and Alec Baum. In subsequent seasons in this series, I plan on doing like a top 10 prospects at the beginning of each season, but with these guys primed to both make an impact this season, and I knew they would. I didn't really think there was a point in including them since they'd end up on the major league roster this year anyway. So I decided to just kind of maybe preview them a little bit now since they will be in the big league club soon, so you will need to know who they are. But Spencer Howard, very good in AAA so far. I mean, not really looking at his peripherals here, but I mean, good ERA, striking out a lot of guys, low whip, so I mean, I wouldn't imagine that his FIP is much higher than his ERA, and I mean, he's been a stud in AAA, and hopefully he'll continue to do the same when we call him up. I mean, I know it's a much higher level, but hopefully he will be fine, and I expect that everything will be. Now, the other guy is Alec Baum, a third base prospect. More of a corner infield prospect overall, but he's been okay in AA. But he had a really rough start, but has been hot of late. You see, look at his ratings here. Not very good in the field, but the bat is his defining characteristic. Now, of course, with those defensive ratings, they of course can improve, but he's not a lock to stay at third base. He also could be at first, and if Hoskins continues to go on a downward trend, he could be our future at first base and not him. But something also to consider that I think could actually happen in real life is possibly him playing left field. So of course, McCutcheon's future with this team is not set after his contract expires, which is after next year. But Baum is pretty athletic, so I think he could handle in left field, and I think this is a case that could actually happen in real life too, that he plays left field. Of course, Hoskins was an infielder that tried to play outfield for them, which is a disaster because he did really awful there. I'm pretty sure his outs above average were like minus 22 or something that year. It's absolutely terrible. But Baum is athletic enough that I think he could be a serviceable left fielder. And of course, if he's hitting really well with the bat, I think that'll be absolutely no problem. And the last guy I want to go over is Didi Gregorius, who's absolutely going to get traded. He's a great infielder to have, and there are definitely some contending teams that need infield help and need it badly. And he's probably one of the guys who are at the top of the list of those kind of teams. He's been great offensively for a shortstop, and he still provides quality defense, so I don't see any problem that we would have in moving him. His contract is a bit high, but of course it does expire after this year, so I don't really foresee any problems with us trying to move him. And I'm sure the market for him will be pretty big heading into the trade deadline, but he's absolutely going to be traded, and he's going to be probably most likely the only guy who's going to be traded unless a realistic offer blows me away. Now we're going to conclude the episode by just quickly going over the All-Star teams. I just thought that would be a little fun thing to show, so just scrolling through here, not really any surprises for the National League. Brandon Kinsler, actually that is a surprise as a reliever. But remember, every team does have to have a representative, so that could be part of it. Andrew McCutcheon starting at left field in the All-Star game. Pretty cool to see right there. And then we do have another one, Didi Gregorius, who's starting at short for the National League. Also very cool to see. So 2 starters for us. The only 2 guys who made the team from All-Star team. Who made the All-Star team from our team is starting. So that's pretty cool. Jorge Alfaro, of course, old Phillies catcher who... Phillies traded for Remuda upgrade. Of course, Alfaro pretty good with the bat, at least decent with the bat. Not as good as Remuda in real life, but having a good season here in the game. And of course, Remuda has fantastic defensive skills. But of course, the show doesn't really measure that correctly because they don't have a way to measure framing at all, which is of course one of the most important parts of being a catcher in the majors today. And again, quick taking a look at the American League here. Of course, not too much of our concern since we're in the National League, just kind of scrolling through to show you guys. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Soler starting in right field, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, not too much. Austin Nola, Aaron Nola's brother, make it. Miguel Cabrera make it. And then some random guys down here. Miguel Cabrera's actually having a really good season. And then some guys like Pat Valaika, Todd Frazier. Every team's going to have their representative, so this is probably... because Vlaika's with the Orioles, so that's probably mostly what that's about. But that's going to do it for this episode, so thank you guys for watching, and I will check in with you guys next time, where we'll be mostly likely at the trade deadline and starting to make some moves to our team. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next episode.